Even if you didn't agree with the decision to keep Matt LaFleur as the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, it's not proof the team isn't all in on winning a Super Bowl. In fact, keeping Matt LaFleur proves the Packers are all in.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get podcasts. You'll find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why, and how, thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network. I want to talk about the suddenly thin offensive line for the Green Bay Packers. I am opting out of offseason lists, Packers or otherwise, but let's start with this criticism of the Packers that has gone back a couple years now. If you wanted to say in 2024 that the Packers didn't go all in, I think you can make a case there. They didn't make significant additions. They were believing in internal development. Now, they did fire their defensive coordinator and replace him with a defensive coordinator who was so good and so effective and so compelling and charismatic that he's now the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. But after what we saw in 2025, there is no case that this team is not all in. They used their first round pick on a receiver for the first time in 25 years. They traded 2 first round picks for one of the 5 or 10 best players in the NFL, one of the 2 best defensive players in the NFL. They went all in on this past season. But you are not measured only on the impact of one season. And what I find so funny from my pal Bart Winkler and others, because I know Bart is not alone on this, that what they take is they see Matt LaFleur stays after the failures, and they say that thing is proof that they're not serious about winning Super Bowls, that they're not fully committed to winning championships. But you're starting from the place that keeping Matt LaFleur precludes you from winning a Super Bowl, and that keeping Matt LaFleur is evidence in and of itself that the team is not serious. Well, if the team doesn't think that, then you can't ascribe your intentionality to the team's intentionality. If the team thinks Matt LaFleur is good enough to win a Super Bowl, then the logic dictates that it is not a move that proves they're not serious. It doesn't matter what you think. It matters what the team thinks. Now, that doesn't mean that you agree with the wisdom, and I understand that. I do. But here's why you're mad. The team did go all in. They did use a first-round pick on Matthew Golden. They did trade 2 first-round picks for Micah Parsons. They did have a team good enough to win the Super Bowl, and they didn't. And you want Matt LaFleur fired because they didn't. You want Matt LaFleur fired because they did go all in. Okay, now that we agree on that, let's dig into this Matt LaFleur piece, right? They go all in. We agree. They went all in. They made the personnel moves that an all-in team would make. They were trying to win the title, trying their damnedest to win the title in 2025. Matt LaFleur is a really good head coach. And I'm not going to try and sell you on Matt LaFleur again. And I'm not going to do the thing where I point out that Doug Peterson won a title and Nick Sirianni won a title and Kyle Shanahan has been to the Super Bowl multiple times and does not have a title. Sean McVay only has 1, and pretty much everyone agrees he's the best coach in the NFL. Andy Reid has multiple titles. You look around the league and you're like, okay, what's going on here? And what we like to do is we like to rewrite history. Because someone won, we have to then imbue them with all sorts of specialness that says, oh, that they're this, they're this, they're this. And that is why that team won the title. But the Packers went all in, not just for 2025. They went in for 2026 and 2027. And what happens when you go all in is you have then concentrated your resources into a group of players that by definition you believe are elevating you into a status of team that is not only capable of winning the Super Bowl, but is potentially likely to win the Super Bowl. Well, guess what happened in the postseason? Guess what happened when Micah Parsons got hurt? They lost. And the compounding losses of Zach Tom and Tucker Kraft all of a sudden hit this team in a different way than it did when Micah Parsons was on it. Like, they looked like the best team in the NFL for a stretch of games without Tucker Kraft, with Zach Tom kind of in and out of the lineup, not 100% healthy. And the reason is they had Micah Parsons, the guy they went all in to get. Now, I think we can talk about the usage for Matthew Golden. That's an all-in move. We can talk about the usage for Savion Williams. They used the top 100 pick on Savion Williams. And even when they're down receivers, he couldn't get out there. Now he's hurt at the end of the year, and that, becomes problematic. He's not able to be out there every time. In the middle of the season, he was out there. He was getting touches. They never quite found a way to get him involved in this offense in a way that was particularly useful or meaningful. They kind of stumbled ass backwards into some useful Savion Williams touches. But And look, I think there are reasonable criticisms of Matt LaFleur, and I've said that, and I will continue to say that, and I will continue to criticize Matt LaFleur when I think it is warranted. But the idea that because you kept him, you are not serious about winning the Super Bowl is preposterous when all of their actions suggest they are serious about winning the Super Bowl. The team and you disagree on Matt LaFleur's worthiness to win a Super Bowl. And I don't want to hear about culture. I don't want to hear about mindset. Guys, look at some of the teams that have won over the last handful of seasons. I hate to keep going back to the Eagles, but the culture there is a nightmare. A nightmare. A waking, and it's gotten worse, progressively worse, not better, despite the fact they won the Super Bowl. But they stayed healthy. Their team was really good. And they had a fortuitous run through the NFC that year. Who knows if it's the same thing? If the Packers stay healthy in the first round, they might have been out. If, Ben Johnson doesn't call a Jameson Williams reverse pass, maybe they might have been out. Look at the Lions. A really well-coached, really good, really balanced team. Haven't even been to a Super Bowl, despite the fact that they won 15 games last year. Or 2 years ago. It's hard with the offseason and where we are to reference last. In 2024, they were the number one seed in the NFC. And the number one seed coming out of the hardest division in the NFL by far. Thanks to wins over the team at the end of the year that were chasing them, the Packers, the Vikings, in big ass games. These things happen. And it's not to excuse anybody. But you can't be so myopic and just say, well, 1 year of going all in and failing is proof that they need to make a change when this was built to be a multi-year cycle. If Micah Parsons stays healthy and the Packers go to the NFC Championship game, no one is even having this discussion. One of the things Bart said was I hate that Micah Parsons' injury saved Matt LaFleur's job. Well, if Micah Parsons hadn't gotten injured, we wouldn't be talking about Matt LaFleur's job. Because they probably would have won some more games. They probably would have been a higher seed. They probably would have won more games in the playoffs, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. We might be talking about something totally different. We might be talking about, could they go back to back? That's how good this team is. Let's not rewrite history. This team tried. They went all in. They concentrated their resources, and those key players, their best players, got hurt. We don't have to overcomplicate this. We don't have to over-psychologize this. Sometimes it just comes down to stuff happens. Now, stuff is happening with the offensive line. And right now, the Packers are in a somewhat precarious place with it. Let's talk about it next.
Hey, it's Matt Derry from the Locked On Lions podcast. The people I love depend on me. If I'm gone, the financial responsibilities don't disappear. I didn't want my family figuring things out during the hardest moment of their lives. That's why I knew only one place to go. I chose life insurance through my friends at Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. I love the folks at Ethos. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get the free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. That is ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Application times and rates may vary.
The offseason doesn't exist for the Everydayer Club. Join the group chat to talk Packers year-round and get every episode of the show ad-free. Just go to lockedonpackers.supercast.com or hit the link in the show notes. We're having a good time in the Discord, the group chat. Come hang out with us. And our Friday news dump based on your questions in the group chat. And, of course, we're going to take some questions live from folks as we do that. Friday noon is the Friday news dump. Last year, before the season, I made the case that the Green Bay Packers had the deepest offensive line in the NFL. And I still don't think that was a wild take. What turned out to be true is Jordan Morgan can't actually play multiple positions at a reasonable level. He is a tackle. We didn't know that last year. It seemed like he was playing guard at a reasonable level as a rookie. And so that projects moving forward that he could do it. He was somehow worse this past season than he was as a rookie playing guard. I don't know why that was, but it was. And maybe it was that the extra time spent playing tackle. I can't be sure. Rasheed Walker regressed. Zach Tom gets hurt. Aaron Banks gets hurt. Elton Jenkins gets hurt. And all of a sudden that depth evaporates and you got to play, when you got to play all your backups, you're not suddenly as deep as you thought you were. Because when just one guy has to go in, it's hey, the depth works. When all the guys have to go in, you're just kind of SOL, unfortunately. So if we expect that Elton Jenkins is going to be cut, who's going to play center for this team? Because Jacob Monk has had opportunities since he's been drafted, and the Packers have done everything in their worldly powers to avoid him playing football for the Green Bay Packers. Like everything in their power. They played Lecitus Smith in a playoff game. Like there's nothing more I need to say about that. And look, he's just not an NFL player. And that's the reality of where you are when you have to play backups and backups and backups. So where is Jordan Morgan going to play? We're not really sure. We're not really sure what the situation is with where he's going to be. We think it's going to be left tackle. Brian Gutekunst left the door open that it could be somewhere else. I still think it's going to be left tackle, but we've never seen him play left tackle as the preferred starter week to week in games that matter. So there's your risk. Aaron Banks has had injury issues his whole career. Had injury issues last year for the Packers. Who is the backup guard right now that you feel good about? Darian Kennard is going to be a restricted free agent. I would think they would tender him. Frankly, I would go to him and Sean Ryan and I would say, please take these, key backup offensive line deals to stay with the team. Now you could tender Kennard and probably keep that money down. I liked the Sean Ryan experiment at center. I'd like to keep that going. I'd like to see what he could do moving forward, that you keep some continuity there versus trying to bring in a rookie or, finding someone in free agency and trying to hit there. I think center is one of those spots where, the really good centers are force multipliers, but then it's really everybody else after that, because most of what they're doing is they're helping. They're not in the Packers offense. Jordan Love is the one setting the protections, and so you don't have to have that like veteran presence for him or anything like that. And a lot of the blocking is double teams or moving in space and climbing to linebackers, those kinds of things. There are not a lot of teams that have these big physical nose tackles that are just going to eat you up if you're if you're Garrett Bradbury, for example, and Kenny Clark just owns you every time you play. Still, I'd like to have some continuity there, and the Packers don't, at least not right now, because we don't know the future of Sean Rhyan. Zach Tom is coming off major injury. Maybe he'll be ready for the start of the regular season. Maybe he won't. Even if you keep Sean Rhyan and Darian Kennard, you're starting Anthony Belton at right guard, who's never done that for a full season. You're starting Jordan Morgan at left tackle, who's really never done that in a game that mattered. Maybe you're going to have Aaron Banks healthy. So then Sean Rhyan is the center, and if Zach Tom can't go, you got Darian Kennard at right tackle. That's your opening day offensive line. That's a little scary. And one of the reasons why I bring this up, and I mentioned it on our mock drafts Monday, is I'm wondering if we're not thinking enough about offensive linemen early in this draft. I know they used a first round pick 2 years ago, and they used a second round pick last year. But even if you bring back Kennard and Ryan, you have no depth on this team to speak of, because you have your starters. You have Darian Kennard as a backup if you're bringing him back. And then a lot of these developmental plays that you have tried have just not borne fruit. Or in the case of guys like Yosh Nijman and Rasheed Walker, they were good enough that they're then going to move on because you're not going to pay them the money that they are going to, get in free agency. Now, Donovan Jennings is an intriguing player, but we've never really seen him actually play football. Travis Glover does not look like an NFL player. We have no John Williams, who was an intriguing 7th round pick last year, basically redshirted. We have no idea what it looks like if he has to play football in the NFL. And so your depth is really hindered. It would not surprise me if, let's say, they don't draft an offensive lineman in round 1, or in round 2, round 3, nothing on day 2. I would not be surprised at all if we see 2, even 3 offensive linemen drafted on day 3, because they have to replenish the depth. They have done an excellent job of developing talent in the Brian Gutekunst, Matt LaFleur era at the offensive line position. Elton Jenkins, Zach Tom, Rasheed Walker, Sean Rhyan, even though he was a 3rd round pick, John Runyon Jr. They've found and developed some good football players. Not all elite players. Elton Jenkins is an elite player. Zach Tom is an elite player. Rasheed Walker was, at least for a time, a quality starter. John Runyon Jr. is a quality starter. Sean Rhyan, center, maybe quality starter. So they've been able to do that. But your depth is taking a major hit because the depth that was so nice last year, those were developmental pieces that are now moving into the starting lineup. We thought last year that at least one of Morgan or Belton was going to be starting and the other was going to be on the sidelines. They ended up both being on the sidelines, which in a way is great for your depth because you have 2 players you really believe in as depth pieces. If those guys are now starting and the guys they're replacing are out the door, you've got to backfill that talent. Now, you don't have to use 1st and 2nd round picks to backfill that talent. But don't you need some insurance if Jordan Morgan doesn't work out at left tackle the way that you think, given the way that he's looked at guard? Don't you need some insurance that Anthony Belton is not going to ultimately adapt better at right guard than we saw last year? I thought we saw flashes. We saw some nice things. They love his physicality. They love his power and his size and all that stuff. But it didn't translate to him, being an ass kicker in the run game on any kind of consistent basis. You hope a full offseason of preparing for those things and training for those things and another offseason, that full, you're not a rookie anymore, that full offseason. One of the reasons that guys make year 2 jumps is because they get to spend the offseason training to play football, not going to the combine, training to do those drills, going to pro days, going to meetings for with agents. And then, spring ball all of a sudden is here and you got to go try and your head is swimming. You're not really playing football. You're not training to play football. And so you get that full offseason. So you hope someone like Anthony Belton, someone like Jordan Morgan, who goes into the year going, okay, I'm going to be the left tackle, or at least I'm going to be given every chance to win this left tackle job. That's what I'm going to focus on. Left tackle, pass sets, left tackle, run game, understanding what my responsibilities are in all of those moments. Anthony Belton, you're the right guard. Okay. What does that mean for the way you shape your body? What does that mean for the way you train? What does that mean for the way you study film? All of this stuff has an impact, but ultimately you need bodies. You got to fill the team. And so the Packers are going to have to find ways to add to the depth of this offense. I wouldn't be surprised if they signed, a sort of low-level veteran, whether it's an interior offensive lineman, a swing offensive lineman. That would be one reason to just sign Sean Rhyan rather than go dumpster diving, go in the $5 DVD bin at Best Buy and try and find a movie you love. Why not just, keep Sean Rhyan? But you still probably need another tackle. You still probably need another interior offensive line. Again, we don't know what someone like, Donovan Jennings is. And so there's work to do here. And there's work to do with some of these offseason lists. It's why I'm just out. I'm just blind out. I'm not going to waste my time. And I would recommend you do the same. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, there is a job for you, and it's with Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for with skills, experience, location, so you're not hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all the boxes. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? I know I have. FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds that little extra excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can your pick cash, but it could also send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Last week, it was an NFL.com ranking with Jordan Love, like 14th or something in tier 3 behind Daniel Jones and Caleb Williams and all these guys. And it's just like, what they want me to do is produce content around their thing and send people to their thing because they make money off the traffic that I would send them. And then this week, another NFL.com thing about Super Bowl windows. Who's got the wide open Super Bowl window? And like the teams aside almost, like the Rams are on there. Matthew Stafford is 38 years old and had to be in a custom-made Airstream just to be upright for training camp. They do not have a wide open Super Bowl window. Please stop this. And the Packers were not on the list. And I've already said too much. I've already given it too much oxygen. Because I am telling you right now, my solemn promise to you, I am opting out. I am deciding not to care, not to engage. Because it's an exercise in futility. It's stupid. Why am I wasting my time? Why am I wasting my mental energy? Why am I wasting precious seconds of my life on this nonsense? Why? We could be talking about so many more interesting things on this show. And we're going to. I'm not saying if you want to read those things and get mad about it or agree with them, go ahead. If you're enjoying it, I 100% encourage you to spend that time doing something you enjoy. That's great. It's just not going to be for me. And I'm going to do my best to avoid talking about that stuff on this show because it just drives me nuts. And I don't know what it is about the Packers. I don't know what it is about Jordan Love in particular that makes analysts go so freaking crazy. But, I'll admit it. Like, there are plenty of Packer fans who don't think that the Packers are in a Super Bowl window. There are plenty of Packer fans who think Jordan Love is like the 14th or the 15th best quarterback in the NFL. What's frustrating is then things like this from people who don't have any track record of being right about anything. It gives ammunition to Bears fans and Vikings fans and Lions fans who are just dopes or are willfully ignorant or just want to talk mess. See, Jordan Love, no one thinks he's mid, blah. Learn ball. Please, I'm begging. Open the schools. The lack of ball knowledge is an epidemic in our country. And we have to come together as a society and change it. Because if we're not willing to work together to teach people the fundamentals of football, then, what are we doing here? Truly, what are we doing here? It's dumb, and I'm not going to waste time on it, okay? This is the time that I'm going to spend. This is the only time I want to spend on these stupid things because they are made, like we talk about clickbait in media, and I would say that phrase is totally overused. What's the other one? Rage bait. Love that one. I get accused of rage baiting all the time. And I'm just like, guys, the thing I care about most, I'll repeat this. I want to be right. I want to be right. And I'm going to be wrong. Like, I'm not going to bat 1,000. The best GMs, the best coaches, they don't bat 1,000. But I ultimately want to be right. Like, if you're wrong too much, people just roll their eyes. And what's funny is Bears fans are already like rolling their eyes, even though I'm right about the Bears constantly and perpetually. More right about the Bears consistently than like most Bears media. But they would never admit that. They just pick one thing that they love to bring up, Dexter Williams and David Montgomery. Like, that's some big home run win for them. Congrats on one draft eval, one time, 10 years ago. Amazing stuff. So I'm opting out. That's me. I'm clicking mute on X. I'm muting the words list. I don't want to see them. I don't care. Because most of them really are clickbait. They just want you to react. They just want you to respond. And there's something, as someone who's made lists before, there is something about you make a really normie list and you just kind of go, like, is this really what I want to do? Do I want to put this normie ass list out into the world? No. You want to have a little spice. You want it to stand out. Actually, you know what? I think that Daniel Jones is better than people think. So I'm going to put him in the top 10. And you galaxy brain it and you end up doing something stupid. And so I'm not engaging. We'll be back tomorrow, though, talking about something and literally anything else. Thanks for tuning in today to Locked On Packers. Make sure to subscribe and follow it wherever you get podcasts so you always get the latest episodes. Subscribe on YouTube. We'll be live on the Squad Show tonight. I will be on the Squad Show tonight talking Packers. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Packers ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonpackers.supercast.com to join along. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 national NFL YouTube channel. On audio, make your second listen Locked On NFL Draft. How about that? We're going to be talking plenty NFL Draft here, especially with the Combine less than a week away now. Always here so you can stay Locked On Packers.